So yes, very warm welcome to everyone here and people joining from elsewhere in Shropshire. And we've got a few people joining from Wales. And we have at least one person joining from San Francisco. So we are... Huh? And one from Italy. Who's in Italy? Oh, great. So we're quite an international gathering. And so yeah, just to let you know what the shape of the evening will be, I will give a little introduction to our theme, and then I'll lead us in a kind of reflection, a meditative reflection on the theme. And then we will have our 3 short talks or sharings from first Helen and on Zoom, then Jamie, who's in the room, in the shrine room, and then Pernille also on Zoom. Then we'll take a tea break. And during the tea break, Jayaratna is going to lead meditation, particularly for the people on Zoom. You are welcome to join him for the meditation. And also, if people here would like to do that, you're welcome to either take a tea break or be in a more meditative space. And then after that, we will have breakout groups, which again are an option. They're a choice for you. And in many ways, I think they're quite a practice, like anything else in life, but like meditation, like coming together for ritual. In a way, coming together as a group is also an opportunity to bring metta and mindfulness and awareness to whatever, in a way, whatever happens for you when you're in a group. And that can be, is quite particular for us each. So yeah, so just tuning in with yourself and deciding if you want to join a group and engage with it in the spirit of practice. And then we'll end the evening with a period of meditation. So that's the shape of it. So, so if anyone doesn't know me, my name is Saravantu. And yeah, I'm just going to say a little bit about the theme. So our theme is belonging and difference. So really big, important human themes, big needs for human beings to have a sense of belonging. It's important for us to varying degrees as social animals to feel part of communities, part of things. But it's also important for us to feel individual and to be free to do our own thing and to not just be part of a group, but to be our own unique, particular being. So they're kind of their heart themes, I think. They're things that are vital for human beings. And they can be quite sensitive and yeah, quite tender topics. So yeah, just invite you to yeah, just be aware of that. Take a bit of care with yourself on these things. So yes, tuning that sense of wanting to belong, be part of something bigger than ourselves, but also wanting to be independent, to be free, autonomous. And the sense of our particularity, our difference, we want that to be valued and not, yeah, not a cause for discrimination. So I asked Annie if she would put Ratnasambhava and Amitabha on the shrine, because they're just for me a very good reminder of holding kind of at the same time these 2 wisdoms. Ratnasambhava's wisdom of sameness, equality. He really, that wisdom emphasizes our common ground, what we have in common, a sense of how alike we are as human beings. In the same boat, all experiencing dukkha and challenge. And then Amitabha, with his wisdom of difference, discernment, sense of particularity, loving the uniqueness of each human being. So we've got Ratnasambhava and Amitabha. So in a more kind of evocative, metaphorical way, reminding us to hold both these wisdoms of sameness and difference. So yeah, sense of our common humanity and also our radically different life experiences. Both are true. So the questions that we are exploring tonight are things like, what supports a sense of belonging for you? What helps you to feel welcomed, included, part of something? And then also, in what ways do you feel different to others? That probably does vary depending on context, depending on where you are. And sometimes I imagine that feeling different feels fine, feels easy, or feels important, feels positive. And sometimes feeling different probably doesn't feel so easy or so comfortable. So it can go either way. And we're going to have our 3 sharings from Sangha members who are all part of our diversity and inclusion Kula, which has been meeting every month since March. Is that all? It somehow feels like longer, but I think it is, unless I've missed another year. I think it's just from this March. And it started because, well, it's really important for us that people feel welcomed and included when they come to the centre. But inevitably, that won't always be the case, and we will be doing things inadvertently without being aware of it that may not make everyone feel welcome and included. So we wanted to come together and think about, well, what obstacles might there be for people? What things might we be able to do that would make an ever wider range of people feel able to come and feel part of this community if they want to. So I thought it might be a good moment to actually see if you can remember what it was like for you when you came along to this centre or to any centre, or maybe a Zoom-based centre experience, when you came along for the first time. And what was that like? Did you have a sense of kinship, connection, of meeting people like you? Or did they actually all seem quite strange, quite different, quite odd? And perhaps it felt easy and you did feel warmly welcomed. But perhaps you might also have felt daunted. I know quite a few people have an experience of feeling like everyone else seems to know each other, which some do, but some don't. And when you're there for the first time, that can be quite strong, that sense that the others are a community who know each other. So I think I'm realizing I hear that quite often from people. I think that's quite a common experience. So it's just really important to reach out to people who are new, or just look out for people who are on their own in a tea break, and it might be fine. They might be very happy with that, but they might really welcome someone coming and saying hi. So, so that's just a little bit about the theme and some of the questions that we will hear some personal sharings about from 3 Sangha members. But before that, I'm just going to guide us in a short meditative reflection. So feel free to close your eyes if you'd like to, or keep them open, however you prefer. Just having a sense of the body sitting here. Just turning inwards. letting yourself land more fully in whatever experience is arising just now. Experience of the body and the senses. Experiences of heart and mind. And whatever experience is there, is something that you can bring awareness to. So see if that can just be okay, whatever's there. Doesn't need to be different. It's still an excellent object for awareness. And then there's breathing in the midst of any other experience. Is the body breathing? And sounds. And just let sounds be there. No need to push them away or follow them. So just breathing with life as it is just now. Sitting on the earth. Connected to our extraordinary home, this earth. Which we are a part. We belong here. With this air that suits us perfectly. And I invite you to tune in to a memory of an experience of belonging. It doesn't need to be a particularly kind of big or dramatic experience. just a quiet sense perhaps a sense of being at home in some way, even if it's not your actual home, being at ease, welcome, accepted for who you are. Experience with some flavor of belonging. And see if you can be curious about what supported that experience of belonging. What were the ingredients of it? If there's people there, maybe it was smiles or words, other body language. Sense of connection or safety. Maybe choose just one of those things that contributed to a sense of belonging. And give it your attention. Dwell with it for a few moments. And taking your awareness, if you want to, just now to somewhere in the body where there's a feeling of comfort, pleasure or ease. Just a simple feeling of okayness. Something you can be present with just now. Something simple, like the softness of your hands, some warmth. And just breathe with that. Now opening to perhaps a sense of gratitude, with that memory of a sense of belonging. Are there any thank yous to people, animals, other aspects of the natural world? Any sense of thank you bubbling up? Things that help contribute to that sense of welcome and belonging. Maybe as well as a thank you, maybe there's also a please, maybe there's a request. There's gratitude for things that help, but there's also possibility of requests for things that would help, that do help. This is an area of giving and receiving. And sometimes we ask things of each other. When we're moved to respond to another being. So now just dropping in the thought of bringing this reflection to a close. Maybe letting your mind, your heart turn towards the sangha members who are going to be sharing with us. We're connecting with a sense of metta for Helen and Jamie and Pernille. Sense of appreciation for their generosity and courage in sharing. They might be feeling a little bit nervous, but we can send them our metta. Bathe them in our well-wishing. I'm very happy to see that Helen is still there. Did we lose you for a moment, or was it just because the camera was?
You know, my hotspot, which was okay in my mitra study, which started at 7, and I was at happily until about 2 minutes, well, just before I clicked on here, suddenly has decided not to play. So I've jumped on a neighbour's broadband. So I'm hoping that this plays, and if not, well, maybe it's just not meant to be, you know. That's also fine.
Well, we will be wishing Meta, sending Meta to you and to your internet connection. Yes, so the first Sangha member who's going to share a little bit with us around these themes is Helen. So Jamie, if you could, well, I don't know, can you, what's it called? Pinning, spotlighting. So that then people in the shrine room will be able to see you more clearly, Helen, and people at home, I think you can do yourself if you need to. Have you now got a very big view of
I've got a very big picture of me, and I'm thinking, ooh, how can I get rid of?
I'm sure there's a way of hiding it if you want to.
Oh, that's not it. Sorry.
That's not it. Oh, yes.
Helen, you just go to gallery view. Just
Okay.
click on gallery.
Thanks, Pernille.
Knew someone would have a moment of technical inspiration.
Yeah, I don't mind seeing myself in a tiny blob, but in a big blob, not so much.
Great. Okay, Helen, thanks very much for agreeing to share a little bit with us. The floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, just to say I've been nervous all day about this, so I hope it comes across okay, and that you'll bear with me, and that it'll land in the way that I mean it to land, which is just I want to do a personal share, and please nobody take this as any sort of getting or attacking. It's just me wanting to share my experience. The other thing I just want to quickly say is there's a few people that have showed up from other places just to support me, say hi. So great to see the international contingent. And thank you for thanks for showing up, guys. Right, so I went and had a look at the things that you highlighted, Saravantu, on the newsletter, so welcoming, belonging, difference, stuff like that. So I kind of based what I'd like to share around that. The welcoming was the easiest. What I still find amazing, and one thing I love about, this is just somebody says, "Hi, Helen," to me. Well, now I've got an H on my Zoom, and I've been stalked online, so I'm really careful about my identity. So it's just that simple "Hi, Helen" that you guys know my name and say it, because I live alone, and it's just nice to have someone acknowledge who I am. Just that simple thing, especially maybe morning meditations when I've got to them as well. Then it got a bit crunchier for me. So the belonging. I realised that, well, I've been coming here, I think, for about a year now. And one of the reasons that I feel so at home, I think, in the Triratna context is sadly because, and don't take this the wrong way, it's white middle class. And that's the group that I have identified with most for most of my life. And that is changing thanks to the diversity cooler, and on the back of that, some talks and stuff that's come out of the chairs meeting about the BAME and diversity stuff, and the sessions that I now go to run by London and San Francisco sanghas. I'll come on to that. That has actually made me feel kind of comfortable. And when I was you know, doing mixed studies and we were doing the intros, everyone was educated, and that's another thing that I feel I always have to hide when I'm in Wrexham, because people look at me funny as if I'm bragging if I mention that I've got even a degree. Dread to think what they'd say if I had told them I've got a postgrad. So that ironically just makes me feel, you know, more at home, and having a voice in the breakout rooms as well, and people not talking over me just helps me feel that it's okay to take risks about who I am and stuff like that. I'm coming on to the difference and requests, and this is the bit that I'm most nervous about because, yeah, I mean, Singer Shri and the others did such a great job about race a couple of weeks ago. I was blown away. So I didn't really want to do loads on that. But it is you know, it is one way that I'm different. And although I kind of see and have seen myself as white, as this year's gone on and I've gone to more BAME and BIPOC meetings, I acknowledge that I have actually been what they call whitewashing myself as part of the model minority. And Donna Dassa, who's here, has been one of the people who's, I don't know, really helped me realise that and what it is to be in a white society and to be that model minority and all that sort of stuff. So I'm incredibly grateful to him for both taking the time to chat with me and putting me in touch with, you know, other people around Sharatna that have also been kind and shared their experience. And you know, I don't know whether people are aware of the Courageous Conversations hosted by Vimla Sara, and I watched those very recently, and the second one made me feel really, really scared, actually, because of the attitude of one of the guys who's yeah, associated with the sangha, and it just, for me, scared me because it seemed to be a white male privileged attitude, not taking into account my daily, I don't know, struggles. And it reminded me, I don't know whether you know, I was doing an MA and I had to quit because I triggered a white male middle class person, and yeah, it was difficult. So that second Courageous Conversation really triggered me, and kudos to the person for actually standing up and saying what was probably unpopular in that environment. But it makes me wonder, is that a pervasive view that no one's actually else is daring to say but is around? And that, it just scares me. And part of my request is bear with me while I work through that, and it's nothing personal, I'm just trying to work through my experience. So my other big sort of difference that I feel is just how I experience the world. I sometimes feel like, I don't know, there was a talk last year about the myth of something, and I really related to the matrix model, and that's the way I feel that I see this world, and I just want that to be, that's my experience. I don't think it's good or bad. Most of my mates think I'm nuts completely when I talk about it, but kind of please just bear with that experience. Don't label it as making claims or anything or being better. It's just my experience, and I just want to be as authentic as possible. And my experience also includes that I can get overwhelmed quite easily, or that noise or light, bright lights, and that again is my experience. And I've had stuff in the past where people have just said, oh, well, we all do. We all have that. And that's like, yeah, but I struggle with it. And that is just my experience. And yes, we all have that. So again, it's just my experience. Please bear with it. I think that's pretty much all I want to say, apart from thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for welcoming me into this sangha and letting me, as much as I can, have a bit be. And thank you, Saravantu, for inviting me to the diversity cooler. Having a diversity cooler, then that's just a great place to be able to explore. Yeah, and thanks for listening with an open heart and mind.
Thank you very much. Oh, there was a little moment of applause there. Burst out. I heard a little ruffle of applause coming from under Annie's blanket. Yeah, thank you very much, Helen.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that stayed with me is you saying that this has felt like a context where it's okay to take risks. And I'm really pleased about that. And I hope that the context meets that courage, responds and keeps on being a place where you and others can be authentic, be yourself, take the risk of being yourself, and be well met in that. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'm going to hand over to Jamie, who's I think we're going to swap seats, because he, believe it or not, is not only giving a short talk, he's also doing the tech. But he's going to come and sit here. We'll swap. Thank you.
Oh. Hi, Sangha. How are we doing? Hello, hello, hello. Thank you. That was really, really lovely. So this is a story about being welcomed. So take a moment, close your eyes. Just think what it feels like to be welcomed somewhere. Maybe walking into the Buddhist center, seeing people in the Sangha who you really love, who acknowledge your arrival, who greet you with a hug and ask you how you are, and ask you about that thing you were struggling with last week, who give you their time, who really listen to what you're saying. And then imagine the opposite. Walking into the waiting room of a dentist and smiling at the strangers there, and they just ignore you. And the atmosphere is cold. And you have to wait to speak to the receptionist. And when they do talk to you, they do so with disdain. And you tell them about this problem you're having, and they don't believe you. So they don't give you an appointment, and then you have to leave. Okay, come back to the Buddhist center. Come back to a safe place. I believe we all have the basic universal need to feel welcomed. And then it could be hard for some of us to imagine a world where you get that dentist's office feeling nearly everywhere you go. In the early summer of 2018, I volunteered to teach Syrian refugee children how to read. It was a period of my life where I felt like I had a lot of spare time and a lot of spare energy. I contacted an incredible charity called Shropshire Supports Refugees and was paired up with an American woman named Maggie and her family in Monkmoor. I still remember pulling up outside their house. Maggie hadn't arrived yet on her bike and I had driven. Sitting outside, waiting in the car, I remember the nerves creeping in. What had I done? These were strangers literally from the other side of the world, whose only language was Arabic, who had a different religion, different skin color, who wore different clothes, ate different food, and had fled a terrible, terrible war zone. Everything was so different. It was a culture I knew nothing about. Suddenly it dawned on me, sitting in my car, a young gay Buddhist, that these people could not have been more different to me, and I was afraid. What if the differences between us were just too much? Before I could change my mind, Maggie arrived, and suddenly I was sat in their kitchen and could not have felt more welcomed. They were incredible hosts. I wouldn't even begin until I'd been served 3 shots of this coffee, and it was so strong and so thick, it actually made my hands shake. And then with coffee, obviously came sweets, and discovering that I had a sweet tooth, they then started making every single Syrian dessert they could think of. In the end, I had to beg them to stop feeding me so we could actually talk. They told me they wanted their children to be safe and to be happy, for them to do well at school and succeed, and that is why they had come here. The reason why this was so important was that even though their words were translated from Arabic, this was the exact same thing that the parents at the school where I worked said to me every single year. Despite all the geographical and cultural distance, they all wanted the exact same thing. And so for a year, every Saturday morning, I would arrive at their house, drink an obscene amount of thick coffee, get stuffed with sweets, and then teach the 3 children, aged 6, 8, and 10, then the mother, then the father. The experience challenged a lot of my own prejudices. When I first went, I asked them to teach me small Arabic words and phrases, expecting gradually over the weeks to build up a language exchange. They would slowly and patiently sound out the syllables, and I would repeat them back wrong. They would hide their smirks and say, "Well done, James." But I can honestly say I did not learn a single piece of Arabic the whole year, not even one word. And yet, I expected them to learn every single thing I taught them instantly, and would even be disappointed when there was something I taught them the week before and they'd forgotten. It seemed I was holding them to a much higher standard than I held myself. It's also important to say that sometimes I got it wrong. Even with the best intentions, I said or did careless things that caused them hurt. I found that the best thing to do wasn't get defensive or explain how I didn't mean to cause upset, but to acknowledge and take responsibility for doing so, to put aside my broken ego and take action to put it right. It showed me a lot of my own blind spots as a white person and made me actively treat every single student I met with the absolute respect and grace that they deserved, not just assume I was doing this already. In the months that followed, I opened up my heart to them. We went swimming and to the cinema to see Detective Pikachu and over to Maggie's house to bake cakes. It also taught me something about the importance of representation. I remember the eldest girl seeing a book I'd brought with a picture of a teenager in a headscarf on the cover and demanding we had to read the whole thing because she said the girl looked like her. In every respect, they were brilliant, normal kids. Yet, one time they had been playing in Maggie's garden and they'd heard a plane go overhead. All the children had collapsed to the hot grass and fallen dead still, thinking it was a drone. Maggie said it had really shaken her, trying to rouse a 6-year-old from this kind of daze and explain to them that they weren't going to die. Despite them being normal children, they were also children who had experienced deep trauma. Watching recent events unfold in Afghanistan and seeing refugee families arrive in different countries, greeted with clothes and toys and banners, I knew that in England, they would also receive hatred and anger. Twice that year, when the mother of my refugee family was walking in the park, people had come up to her in Shrewsbury and screamed in her face to go home. And yet, despite all of this hostility, I will always remember how welcoming they were to me, a stranger, and how revolutionary it was finding unity with a family from the other side of the world, who often are depicted in media and politics as too different from us, too alien to empathize or connect with. And so, let me ask you, how would you have made this family feel welcome? What would you have said or done? How would you have shown them respect? Can you think of a time or place you felt particularly welcome or unwelcome? And lastly, what would you do if you accidentally said or did something that made one of the children upset? That's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jamie. I'm so very glad that you were there to connect with that family and and be also connected with by them, a mutual welcome. And yes, I'm just really struck by the importance of what you said about taking responsibility, and yeah, being able to apologize and make repair when that's needed. A sense of how valuable self-metta is for us at those times, because we've messed up in some way, but hey, we're human, and to try and both do what we need to do in relation to others, and be able to take care of ourselves while our ego is wincing a bit. Thank you. And now we have our third talk. I'm looking for Pernille. I'm sure she's there somewhere. There she is.
Right here.
With some plants behind her.
Let's put it on gallery for me. Here we go.
Right.
Can you hear me? My goodness, Jamie, you are just lovely. You are absolutely lovely. What a great talk. My talk is going to be very, very different from Helen's and Jamie's, which is actually quite symbolic. I'm neurodiverse. I am Asperger's, and that means that I'm part of the autistic spectrum. And there are lots of things that are different for an autistic person. There are lots of things that we are really, really good at. And then there are lots of things that we are very, very bad at. But what I want to talk about is one of the things that is immensely difficult for autistic people, and that's socializing. We're very logical, and we understand, we believe what is said. So if a person says something, we take that literal. We're not good at sarcasm. We don't understand jokes. We're the ones that love to have a joke explained to us because we take things literal. That combined with that, the majority of language between people, 80% of it is not spoken. 80% of it is nonverbal. And autistic people, we don't pick up on that, which means that in a social conversation, we will first of all hear what you're saying and take it as truth. And we will, as soon as somebody says something, if you talk about a topic and I'm curious about what you're talking about, then I cannot gauge if my question is appropriate for the setting. You know, like you have the saying that there's a time and a place for everything. Yeah, we don't get that. If you say something I find interesting or something I'm curious about, I will ask about it, whether we're standing at a pool party or sitting in the sangha and talking about death. And that obviously makes us weird and super complicated to be around. And that means that for a lot of autistic people, what we do is just not socialize. It's easier. What Jamie talked about, we're coming into a room and people greet you and say your name and want to talk with you. That's a nightmare for an autistic person. It's like the worst thing that can happen. The best thing that can happen is for me to enter a room, you nod, and leave me alone. And then I will come to you and I will say, what's your special interest? Why do you like Buddhism? And then I would like to talk about that. The best thing you can do is to, if you know somebody is autistic, go to them and say, hello, my special interest is butterflies and Greek mythology. And then we'll be so interested in hearing about what you know about butterflies and what you know about Greek mythology. Even though it's not my interest, then you interest me, and the more facts you can give me, the better. But that's rarely what is happening in the social construct that we normally have. Normally we ask, how are you? I'm fine. If you ask me how I am, I'm going to tell you. So only ask me if you really want to hear. And that leaves a lot of autistic people not want to socialize. And Buddhism became my special interest when I was 13, because Buddhism is great, it's beautiful, it's logic, and you have lots of little nuggets of wisdom in all the suttas, and all of them are connected, and it's like going on a treasure hunt. It's beautiful, it's absolutely amazing, and I have loved Buddhism ever since, I was 13 years old. But I've never had a sangha. I have had a sangha of all the arahats and all the bodhisattvas, and I have never needed or missed anything else. That has always been enough for me. And then I came to Shrewsbury, and everywhere I have traveled, I've always sought out a Buddhist center, so I had somewhere to go to pujas and meditations, and I came to Shrewsbury for morning meditation, and Andrea and Trish were there, and they welcomed me, but they weren't intrusive or asking a lot of questions and all the things that I really don't like. And then we went into the shrine room, and they started to chant, and I immediately felt a feeling of belonging, a feeling of belonging. And I was so curious about it, because I have never had that experience before. That was on a Monday. On a Wednesday, I went to Sangha night, and I was sitting in the shrine room with 40 people, and all of them were chanting like me, meditating like me, like I have been doing for ages. And there was a person sitting and talking. First of all, the person was sitting on the same level as the rest of us. It was not like what I was used to from Mahayana and Theravada, and it was not raised. The person was sitting and talking about real things. And then I started to look into Triratna, started to read all Sangharakshita's book, and he's lovely autistic. It's absolutely amazing. I can do a talk about that another time. Proof why Sangharakshita, he was Asperger's, but that's another talk. And what I found that was so lovely about Triratna is that where the other Buddhist directions have the precepts, do not kill, which is all great, but I have experienced lots of times people not killing, but not having any ethics, and yet still being Buddhists. But with Triratna, we have the positive precepts with deeds of loving kindness, and that's something completely different. There's no sneaking around that. Either you have deeds of loving kindness and you implement it into your life, or you don't. And what we share, all of us here, is not that we don't sleep on a high bed and we don't eat after noon. But what we have together is the positive precepts. And that is beautiful. It's down to earth and it's beautiful. And it means that whichever way I perceive the Dharma and how I implement the Dharma into my life and live, you're completely fine with that. And I'm completely fine with the way you perceive the Dharma and implement it into your life, because what we share is the Dharma and the positive precepts. And that gave me the feeling of belonging. And I spoke with Saravantu about it just after I had arrived, or just after when I talked about my sangha, and she said, your first living sangha. And it was so spot on. It was exactly that. Yes, this is my living sangha. And I know that I'm super difficult being in Mitra studies with, and I love the ones that I am in Mitra studies with, because they bear with me, which is great. And then I had an experience that I want to share. I've been really nervous about going on retreats, because there's lots of people and they're talking and they're smelling and all the things that I find difficult, and things are not going to plan, and I was really concerned about it. And then one day I went to the garden of the Sangha, and Hev and Susan was there, and I went into the garden and said hello. I'm so concerned about going on a retreat, because I can't be alone and people will smell and they will talk, and I'm really not comfortable with that. And instead of like what people normally do out in the real world, going like, that's fine, don't think of it, it's going to be fine. They didn't do that. They saw me and they heard me. And Susan, she went, I can relate to that. I'm quite introvert, but you know what? at Triratna you can actually eat by yourself. You just take your food and go outside, and then you can go for long walks on your own. Even though I'm very introvert, I've never had an issue actually. And it was just, I felt so met and so, yeah, accepted as me, even though that it is a huge, huge issue for me. And then I've been put in contact with other autistic order members. I have applied for ordination, which is super difficult. I'm supposed to socialize to become an order member. And that's like asking a paraplegic taking the stairs. It's not going to happen. But I've been put in contact with Dear Prabha from New Zealand, and my Tricity from Taraloka, and Jana Mitra, who completely speaks autism. She speaks autists, which is great. And I have gotten so much help. So for the first time, since I was 13, I have a community and a place where I belong, even though I am very much a square peg in a round hole. The last thing, if I have any requests, the best thing you can do if you meet an autistic person is leave them alone. They will come to you. And don't hug. We don't like hugs. Yeah, thank you. That's me. Thank you.
Is applause okay?
Pardon?
I'm just hoping applause is okay.
Yeah. No touching though.
You're in the perfect spot then.
Yeah, I love Zoom. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much, Pernille. That was super helpful, very informative, all sorts of nuggets. And yeah, I think from all three of you, I just had a really strong sense of, delight in this sangha, actually, which was really lovely to hear. But also some kind of, it's not perfect as well. And some requests are good, and some bearing with each other. I think both you, Pernille, and Helen said that we need to bear with each other and give each other the benefit of the doubt and dig deeper into our metta at times to just in a way be alongside each other with all of our quirks and our differences, and keep trying to come from metta as best we can. So taking risks, taking responsibility, taking an interest, they all came through loud and clear. So thank you very much to our three wonderful speakers.